All right, guys, welcome to the B2B room. My name's Matt Andrews. Excited to be here with you. This room, I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you haven't been in this room today yet, this room has been rocking, okay? Speaker after speaker have been bringing awesome, actionable intel, okay? Some high-level stuff, right? And some really, really practical things for us to put to use in our business. And our next speaker is no exception. Now, how many of you know, I'm sure we all know, that video is a very important part of your marketing? How many of you guys know that? Raise your hand. Okay, so most of you know that, right? So we all know that, but how many of you have seen really bad business videos out there? Whether it's TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, whatever it is, people trying to market their business, and you watch it. Maybe it's even friends of yours. Maybe it's people you know, and you're like, oh, that's bad. That's not good. That's not connecting, right? That is not telling the story you want to tell. What that's telling is, the story that's telling is you don't know how to make videos, right? That's not the story you want to tell, right? So effective storytelling through video is really, really important. But what we know from what we see is that it's not easy, right? You've got to have somebody that understands storytelling, that understands all of the elements to bring it together so you can correctly communicate your message. Now, the speaker I'm about to bring up is the CEO and founder of Epic Media, and she understands exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about storytelling. She has taken what a lot of us know in the marketing world, but has taken a kind of a Hollywood production level sensibility and ability to tell stories and brought those two worlds together. Right, so she's a producer, she's a consultant, she's into Broadway, she's worked with Disney, but what she really loves is helping seven-figure business owners scale up their business through effective video messaging, and that's what Epic Media is all about. So I want you guys to stand up. Everybody stand up real quick because we're going to get some energy in this room. I know, he's going to make us stand up. Yes, I'm making you stand up. Stand up. I want to get the energy in the room because what she's about to share is going to have really, really great implications in our business. So I want you to put your hands together and welcome Miss Danielle Diamond. Bring her up. Come on. Yeah. Good dog. She chose that song too. That's her Bieber intro song right there.
Yeah, they didn't have peaches, so that was the pick. Hey, thank you guys for coming out. Today we're going to talk about B2B videos, and specifically the 3 types of videos that every B2B brand needs. Is it going up? Awesome, there you go, sweet. So everyone's first job in B2B marketing is kind of like a mini MBA. There's all these alphabet soup words like MQL and SQL and ABM that they didn't teach you in school. So basically, you jump into your job at what you hope is going to be the hottest new tech startup in the Valley and take what you're told about B2B marketing at face value. Because at the time, if you're anything like I was, you're just a kid who's glad to have a job, and basically, compared to all these experts around you, what do you know? So my first job in B2B marketing was very unexpected. It was at this tech company called Drift. For those of you who haven't heard of it, they created the category conversational marketing. It's usually that little chatbot that you see at the bottom of websites. So most of you, though, probably do know Drift as the cool new unicorn company that they just recently, last week, reached over $1 billion valuation. As I mentioned, they created the category conversational marketing. And when I joined, though, not as many people knew Drift. They didn't know what conversational marketing was. We hadn't even created the term yet. And I was their 30th hire, and it was my job to build the brand recognition through video content. So, except there was one thing about me that was a little bit different than the 29 other employees at Drift. I knew literally nothing about marketing, like squat. I'd never worked at a tech company. I'd certainly never built a brand. And to be honest, I was kind of coming from a world where the words business and advertising were kind of these like scary, almost dirty words. But it turns out that's kind of why they hired me. They weren't looking for a typical marketer. They were looking for a storyteller. So my degree was in film and theater at Boston University. I was just a kid who loved telling stories and being creative, and here's some pictures of me doing things that have absolutely nothing to do with marketing. So if you think you didn't learn much about marketing in college, I really learned nothing about marketing in college. So I'm still kind of that kid who likes to be creative. Alongside my career in B2B, I've written musicals with Tony Award-winning producers. My team and I have recently shot shows like SNL and John Oliver. Actually, yesterday we found out that we just won the Emmy for that shot at the bottom right there. Yeah, it was super exciting. Thank you. All my team is amazing. We've really just collected some amazing content creators over the past year and a half. But basically, if you've ever seen a Disney movie or a Broadway show or late night TV, you've probably seen some of me or my colleagues' work without realizing it. But in addition to being a professional writer and director, I also consider myself a marketer, and I'm actually most known for my career in B2B marketing and for running one of the leading creative agencies in B2B, Epic Media. So prior to that, as I mentioned, I was just kind of a kid with a camera who was thrust into the world of B2B, had no idea what I was doing, but I had an amazing group of mentors and a fresh set of eyes. So people in B2B often speak really highly of former athletes because of their competitive nature. They do really well, especially in marketing and sales. But what many of you may not know is that there's a group of people who are just as competitive as athletes, and that is musicians. I'd spent my teenage years at Juilliard pre-college as competing for first chair cellists and solos at Carnegie Hall. And musicians sort of have this like laser-focused drive and perfectionism that's probably verging on unhealthy. So I took that into my career at B2B marketing, and I really wanted to be great at this job that I knew nothing about. So I spent a lot of time getting to know the industry. I checked out tons of B2B websites, I observed what ads B2B brands were running, and I eyed how tech companies were running their social media. And what I found was there was like a lot of boring content, as I'm sure many of you have seen. Fortunately, I was at a place like Drift where the team took a really hard stance on not accepting things we thought were broken in marketing. And to me, the thing that felt the most broken was creativity or lack thereof. And the thing is, it wasn't the people in B2B marketing that were boring. In fact, the thing that I found is that the industry is so full of creative people, some of the most creative people that I have ever met, and that's coming from a film and theater background, and they were just afraid of doing creative things because of the nature of the industry. But one of the most common and dangerous phrases in marketing is that's just how we've always done it. So when it came to video content, most tech companies just didn't know that there was a better way. So let's take what I consider the arch nemesis of B2B creative, for example, the animated explainer video. Yeah, I know why you're all laughing. 10 years ago, having an animated explainer video was like this huge deal because nobody had any videos at all. This was like it. But now, every company has a blog, every company is on social, every company has a podcast, and most importantly, every company is producing video content. So at this point, it's just table stakes. And because everyone is creating content, it means that your content actually has to stand out if you want to win on brand in the sea of MarTech companies, especially now when anyone can copy your products, anyone can copy your features and benefits, you have to win on brand. So whenever I talk to B2B marketers about the user journey of the animated explainer video, it goes a little something like this. You go to a company's website, you click on this generic looking explainer video that looks the same as every other website you've been on, and you get really bored within the first few minutes. Scrub to about 1:30 to see if you find what you're looking for, because for some reason someone decided this video should be 3 to 5 minutes long. You inevitably do not find what you're looking for. Scrub through the homepage where you find just kind of a bunch of jargony text, and then you get bored and leave. Has anyone had that experience? Yeah, all of us. Now, there's one other common offender on the B2B homepage, and these are the interview videos with the with the company's CEO that's kind of just like rambling about their values against this like backdrop of this boring office B-roll that looks super generic and that has absolutely nothing to do with you as the customer and the problem that they're solving. Now, you may think that your values are a differentiator, but at the end of the day, the customer really just cares about the problem you solve and how you can help them do that. This sort of values video really just belongs on the careers page. So basically, the more that I learned about building a brand, the more that I was very certain that this standard B2B video content really wasn't working and just didn't align with what we know humans respond to. So I asked Dave Cancel and Dave Gerhardt, the CEO and VP of Marketing at Drift, to take a bet and let me run with something totally new that we hadn't really seen in B2B before. And the bet we were taking was the ROI of creativity. So the approach was, don't be the ad, be the TV show. Instead of a typical ad campaign that focused on the actual product, what I wrote was these 3 little sketches that were all under a minute long that made fun of the problem instead of trying to sell you on Drift as the solution. So one of the things that we made fun of, for example, was those really long lead forms that you have to fill out. So let's take a quick look at it.
All right, let's see. I think I'm going to go with this.
Sir, before you look at that, I'm going to need you to answer some questions for me. Can I get your name, email, contact information, birth information, relationship status, political affiliation, Facebook URL, favorite TV show? Do you think pineapple belongs on pizza? Sir, I'm going to need you to answer these for me. Your favorite season, best series, your favorite baby name. Which of the following do you find the most difficult to deal with? Hunger, cold, loneliness? Celebrity ranking quiz. We have that for you to fill out. Mother's name, father's name, siblings, your family history.
Awesome. So that was one of the 3 videos that we made. And to be totally honest, I don't have perfect revenue data on that video. Our team at Drift was not big on trying to measure the ROI of brand, which is probably one of the reasons why it worked so well, is that we weren't trying to measure every little thing. But what I do know is that we didn't spend a dime on paid on this. We just posted it natively on organic social platforms, and we instantly got over 100,000 views. Now, the vanity metrics are great, but the most important thing was that people in the MarTech space started talking about the series, and someone had even told me that it was referenced at a conference that they went to, which was super cool. So while those are really, there it is, okay. Sorry, lost the video. Basically, organic search and revenue increased at an impressive rate, and that was the sign that our brand was working. So since then, B2B companies have started to see the value in creativity, thank goodness. And many of them have reached out about this new video strategy that focuses on education and entertainment above all else. So there's been such a demand for creativity in B2B video that I recently started an agency called Epic Media that focuses on exactly that, where we basically redesigned the video content funnel for some of the biggest brands in B2B and even D2C, because regardless of the acronym, we're always marketing to human beings. And basically, after making hundreds of videos, we've uncovered the underlying problem with most B2B content as it stands today. So imagine if you went on a first date and the first thing that person asked you was for your hand in marriage. That would be like totally psycho. And the reason is you have to build trust and connect with someone before you lock it down for good. Yet, this is exactly what B2B brands have been doing with their video strategy. What we've found is that top of funnel B2B ads and organic content were basically screaming, marry me on the first date. These B2B companies have been so focused on pushing their features and benefits that they were skipping the steps of building trust and connecting with people on the problem that these features and benefits were actually solving. So basically, no one wants to be immediately sold to. People just want to be understood. So in order to fix this, we've redesigned the modern marketing funnel and content cadence to reflect the way people are actually interacting with content and buying from companies. And this is something that you might want to write down. So number 1, build trust. That's the first thing you have to do. Number 2, connect with them on the problem. That's the second thing you have to do. And then finally, that's when you can provide the solution. This is the modern marketing funnel that is currently driving demand for the biggest brands in B2B. So with this new model, there are basically 3 types of videos that every B2B brand needs. First one, educational content. The second, comedic or narrative style brand videos, kind of like that Drift one. And the third one is product marketing videos, where you can talk about the features and benefits, but please just not the animated kind. So let's talk about step 1, educational content. Basically, educational content is the one thing that every single brand can do regardless of their size or budget. That's what I love about it. And in fact, this is what I recommend most companies bring in-house. You should have a social team or a video person that's sort of running this type of content specifically. While many companies are doing this, a lot of them keep forgetting that the goal is to build trust. You need to give before you ask. You have to provide value to your audience before you start promoting your product. And basically, what happens is people start making these educational videos, but then they basically segue into making constant content about their latest ebook or webinar. For the love of God, just stop doing that, because you have to give people a reason to trust you that before they go and click on that ebook or go to your webinar. They have to trust you to know that there will be actual value in that webinar that you keep posting about 10 times a day. So if you want your audience to get pumped about your next product launch, you have to talk about the problem first. So start testing content about the things that your audience actually cares about. And this is where education and entertainment are key. So what should this educational content look like? Basically, when I talk to clients, everyone wants their content to look like Dave Gerhardt's or Chris Walker's or Gary Vee's, if you've seen any of these on LinkedIn. And of course they want it to look like that. Their content works. Views and engagement are really great. There's this like magic format that we've kind of figured out with this catchy headline and subtitles, and that little time bar definitely helps for sure. And Dave Gerhardt and I have really spent years testing and perfecting all of those things, but above all else, these daily, weekly social clips need to actually provide value through expertise and opinions. Even if you follow this perfect format, if it doesn't provide value, it's not gonna matter. So here's a really great example from a brilliant friend and colleague of mine, Greg Larkin, and I think this is a really great example because Greg is not someone like Dave or Gary who gets thousands and thousands of views per video, but the views he does get are the right ones. So we're gonna do this film school style, where we're gonna watch a little bit and then we're gonna sort of talk through what works together.
There has been a really noticeable difference between the back to work policies of Facebook and Google versus JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. Facebook and Google have announced, after the pandemic is over, if you want to continue to work from home, do what you need to do. We trust you to get your work done. We trust you to continue to make these companies great.
So yeah, we'll just watch a little bit. So basically I'm gonna stop it there because the formatting that reflects the native LinkedIn style makes you wanna click, so that's really great, right? Plus this headline, if you're someone who is in the banking industry, you're gonna wanna stop and click on that. Now I know a lot of brands do not wanna play the clickbait game, totally get it, but something that's really important to note is that you need to have a catchy headline, and as long as the headline actually delivers, as long as the content delivers on what the headline is promising, that's not clickbait, it's just good content. So really focus in on that headline because that can make the difference between whether or not someone watches your content or not. So what I love about Greg's content as a role model, again, is that he's not after these vanity metrics. He's just super specific about who he's talking to and why. His LinkedIn job description really kind of says it all, right? He's after these C-suite executives. And again, he doesn't attract tens of thousands of views, but he attracts the right viewers. And for Greg, the magic actually happens behind the scenes, not in the comments or the likes, but in his DMs. Because when he posts something that really takes a stance on innovation, then this C-suite execs kind of start pouring into his DMs, and then he's there discussing multi-six-figure deals. He's also a true expert and just has a lot of great value to add, so that's really where you want to focus. So something that really the key thing to take away here is that quality over quantity is what every brand should be focusing on, especially with educational content. If it comes down to 100,000 of the wrong people or 10 of the right people, pick 10 of the right people. So next is the second type of video, which happens to be my personal favorite. It also happens to generally be the highest performing video for brand awareness, organic traffic, and pipeline growth. Now, when you're scrolling through social and something feels like an ad, it's kind of our impulse at this point to press that skip ad button or kind of just scroll past because we don't really trust ads. But what if your ad was just as entertaining as an episode of The Office or your favorite SNL sketch? That's sort of what we've tried to do with these. Now, the great thing with this content is that it can kind of work across multiple platforms, right? There's replacing that animated explainer video. There's organic social, which is super important nowadays. And then there's paid traffic, especially those sort of top of funnel videos when people are first hearing about your brand. So let's start by talking about how it works on a website. We tested this out with a company called User Interviews, especially at the time. They were much smaller. They hadn't gotten their Series B funding yet. And so we decided to do something a little different here, and we made a video in the style of The Office and placed it on their homepage. and they saw a 9% increase in website conversion, which basically doubled their MRR in just 2 weeks post-launch, which was huge. Another thing that they did really great with this launch was that they attached it to a product hunt launch, so a lot of people got to see that video, right? Everyone at that company was sort of posting it at the same time. They made this the video on product hunt, and compared to all those boring product like feature benefit style videos on Product Hunt, this was much more entertaining and interesting, and people started sharing it. And that's sort of the big thing, right, is this shareability of these type of videos. Now, let's talk about organic social. These videos also work super well on organic social. This is one that we just did for DGMG Jobs. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this one, because it's been going around, but let's play it right now.
Hey, big idea. Branded Frisbees.
Yeah.
Do we have enough neon in our branding? No. So I saw the email copy, but can we make it more wow?
So basically, in the first 24 hours that we launched this video, we got over 30,000 views and just a ton of engagement. But the most important thing is the DGMG Jobs board. Traffic on that website spiked, it basically doubled. And since then, the amount of CEOs posting jobs on the jobs board has increased significantly. So that there's sort of like a direct correlation, right, between this video we posted on organic social that then led right to direct revenue. Since then, this video has reached, I think, about 500,000 views, which is pretty awesome. But the most important thing is, A, the ROI it created and the engagement, right? It got people to really raise their hand and go, oh my God, I've had a CEO like that. Or we've all had a marketing manager who's been like, let's make our copy more wow. Like, what does that mean? So the idea is to really just connect with people on the problems that they're actually having. So this was something that worked really well in organic social. Now the next one, this is a bit of a different video. It focuses a little bit less on comedy and a little bit more on narrative. This is a campaign we just did with the company Trainual. And this was interesting because really, so here we have a famous talent, right? And if any of us have seen the Super Bowl commercials lately, a lot of companies kind of rely on talent as this crutch, and the actual story in the video is really bad because they have this famous person and they think that's enough. But what we decided to do instead is really lean on the talent story to connect with small business owners who is the target market. And also, this talent sort of acts as this thing to get you to stop within those first 3 seconds to go, oh, I think I recognize that guy. Because a lot of companies use that idea, oh, if I need to catch someone's attention on an ad in 3 seconds by setting something on fire or jumping out of a tree. And yes, these are real examples that B2B companies have used. And the thing is, that catches people's attention, but for the wrong reasons. And that's the great thing about narrative, and even using a famous people or like this stack of hats, this interesting story visual, is that it's getting people to stop for the right reason. So let's play this one and check it out.
When I started my business, I wasn't just wearing every hat, I was literally making every hat. I would make them myself in my mother's living room, then I'd hit the streets to sell them. I'd sell 1 here, 2 there, until I found my influencers. First, it was club bouncers, bar promoters. Then, it was hip-hop artists like LL Cool J, Beyonce, The Fresh Prince. But more sales meant more financing to worry about. How was I going to fund the growth, finance purchase orders, secure distribution, and hire a team?
Damon, you can't be the business. You've got to build the business. This is how you do it.
Build a business that can scale beyond you. Make a playbook and train your team with Trainual.
This is how you do it.
Need to hand off some hats in your business? Trainual is how you do it. Start for free at trainual.com.
How you do it.
Awesome. So that song, I don't know if you know that song, this is how We Do It, I think, is the original one, and we made sort of a remix for this one. We actually made a music video with Montel Jordan for Trainual, so talk about getting creative in B2B. So this one has been performing super well, and the thing that I think has shocked me most about it has been the amount of shares this has got as a paid ad. Now, as a paid ad, usually you expect, you know, likes, engagement, and the things you're after is really sort of cost per click, right? But the fact that this is getting thousands of shares as a paid ad is really sort of just amplifying what they're spending money on, which has been amazing. Also, something to note about this is that cost per click has been great because if you have a freemium motion for your B2B product, using that as the CTA is always the best way to go. We've just been seeing amazing results with that. Start for free is always, you know, a really compelling offer. So awesome, this was Trainual, and then also this one, as you noticed, wasn't super focused on being funny, but it did tell a story. Something that we have tested is starting it at that very end with Montel and Damon saying, you know, start for free with Trainual, and the version that starts with Damon telling his story has just so way outperformed that, so that I think that really shows how telling a story is the key here. Awesome. So, next, I know for the past 30 minutes I've been telling you not to ramble on about features and benefits, but the good news is eventually you can finally talk about your features and benefits. You could talk about the problem that your product is going to solve, because now hopefully you've built trust, you've connected with them on the problem, so now hopefully your prospect feels strongly about this problem. So there's two ways to approach this, right? The first way is through a product launch and product page video. The great thing is that this could be the exact same video. So that big product launch day that you have on Product Hunt, you know, where everyone at your company is posting this big video on LinkedIn, the great thing is you can reuse that video and keep it on your product page, because when people, you know, see that comedic ad, they then go to your product page because they have an actual interest in your product, then they're gonna wanna click on a video and learn more. So these work really well, especially because we're using actual people, and people wanna buy from people. And my theory here is that the reason why people click on this more is because it feels more like a YouTube video. This is the type of native content that as we're scrolling through our phones or as we're on our computers that we're actually watching and clicking on, as opposed to, you know, that standard boring animated version. Now, again, speaking of animated stuff, another key here is to use actual screen recordings or product pop-up visuals of the actual product. I don't know if any of you have noticed in those animated explainer videos that there's this like generic looking version of the product that's like stripped down and not the actual product. Show people what the actual product looked like. You have these amazing designers, you spend so much time on your product, you want to let people know what the experience is going to be like, so really make use of that in these videos. So that's the product launch and product page video. Again, use it on Product Hunt. Have everyone in your company post this video natively on whatever platforms they use. Twitter is a super overlooked platform. There's a huge marketing community on there. And make sure you always post these videos natively instead of YouTube links. That's a big mistake I see people make. Most people are not going to go through the trouble of clicking on your link, so you always want to make sure it's native so it does that autoplay thing, because then people are actually going to stop and watch and go, oh, yeah, this is interesting. Awesome. And then next are the retargeted product ads. Good news, you can run product-focused ads on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. I hear a lot from B2B brands that, oh, YouTube ads aren't working for me. LinkedIn ads, the cost per click is just way too high. The problem is not the platform, it's the creative. The first thing, and this is why I say retarget is you have to hit them with that branded ad first. They need to get to know who you are first. But once they know who you are, then they're going to be much more willing to watch something about your features and benefits. So this is one that we just did for Loom. It's worked really well, A, because most people know who Loom is at this point, and we kept it really short to get to that CTA really quickly, so it's been working really well as a YouTube ad, Facebook ad, and LinkedIn ad.
Zoom fatigue is real. When calendars just won't line up and you do not have time to type a wall of text, just use Loom to send a quick video message of your feedback. Nothing to schedule, nothing to type. Loom works wherever you do. Loom, video messaging for work.
Awesome, so that one was super quick. We made a couple different versions, right? So we actually did 2 different scripts for this, 6 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, which is what YouTube likes. And the great thing about this style video is that it's a great way to test out messaging. So in one production, we were able to do a couple different scripts to see which messaging works best. So I'm a big fan of testing, and so anytime that you can find a way to really test out different messaging in one production. It's a great way to get the most for your money and turn it into this bigger campaign and also target multiple people in different ways. It's a great way to really combine creative with paid. So that is basically the 3 types of videos that every brand needs. We've got a little bit of time left, so if anyone has any questions, I would love to answer any. Also, if anyone has any questions that they come across after that, you can reach me at Danielle@epicmedia.com. You can also check out more of our work at epicmedia.com. I love talking about this stuff. I talk about it for hours every day, so feel free to reach out at any point. Love talking about video strategy and all that. So do you want to?
Awesome. Well, let's give her a hand for starters. That was awesome. Great job. So we do have a few minutes for Q&A, so whoever has questions, if you'll come right over here to this mic. I think we just have one mic, right? Yep. Come over here to this mic and you guys can just line up. So anybody that's got a question, come on over and we'll spend a few minutes on Q&A.
Yeah, it's my favorite part.
Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hope you guys learned something.
Yeah, I definitely learned something. Thank you. Go for it.
Hi there. My question is, funny is really hard to do.
Yes.
Right? And those are like amazing, but you're a professional and I'm sure it costs a lot of money. So what do you recommend for a small company who doesn't have the budget?
That's a fantastic question. So actually Dan Kennedy in his book, The Ultimate Sales Letter, says this thing that's like, don't try to be funny, leave it to the professionals. And that's where I would say you can focus more on narrative. Something that I've seen companies do is, like, honestly, if you do want to get funny, you're going to want to invest in, having professionals do it so it comes across that funny. But I don't recommend doing that before you test your messaging. Something that we did with DGMG Jobs in particular is we tested the messaging through Twitter. It was something as simple as Dave tweeted, life is too short to work for a CEO who doesn't get marketing. It was as simple as a tweet, and that performed really well. So then he made a longer post about it on LinkedIn, performed super well. He put it in the DGMG community, performed even better. So we sort of tested that messaging through other channels before we said, okay, let's spend a lot of money and make it really funny and really use this as the big brand play. So I recommend sort of testing messaging in a bunch of ways and then sort of investing in comedy there. Or then say you're really at a point where you want to do something brand driven, but you don't want to invest in comedy. That's where you can still tell a narrative that makes your customer the hero, kind of more like the Damon John video, where you can sort of tell a story that's more focused on the customer. It doesn't necessarily have to be funny. The idea is to focus on telling a story. It's just that comedy tends to just have that virality element that we really like. Awesome. I hope that helped.
Go ahead.
Hi there. Thank you so much. Great presentation. We're working on a couple of comedic videos, and we're looking at a different approach in not having it completely done with custom video. We're doing it with some stock. So curious if you can talk about a couple things. One is length of video and impact, whether or not you recommend 15 second, 30, 60 to get your message across against the 3 types. And what is the range of expense that a company should look to invest? And should it be in a series of at least 3 videos in the same theme, or is it okay just to do 1?
Yes, that's a good question. I personally am not a fan of stock videos, I'll be honest about that. If you're using stock video, that's where I'd recommend keeping it shorter. Right, that's the great thing about the more custom videos is the video can really be as long as it needs to be because it's telling a story that's keeping people engaged. If you're sort of on the edge of, ooh, we might lose people's attention, that's where keeping it short is going to work better, especially if you're using it as a paid ad. You want to sort of get to that CTA a little bit quicker. That's probably what I'd recommend, especially if you're using stock video. The other question was in terms of what should they spend. It totally depends. My main thing is I like to see companies see actual ROI on these. So if you are a brand new startup, I do not recommend spending $250,000 on a big comedic series. Now, like these can be done depending on the concept for about $15,000. We've done them all the way up to like $200,000. So it really just depends on where you are at as a brand and where you're going to sort of see that ROI. I definitely do recommend investing in getting it done professionally, because as Dan Kennedy kind of says, like you want to leave the comedy to the professionals if you're going to go the comedic route. You also don't have to go the comedic route. But that's sort of it could really be any range, right? And that's the great thing about production is that If you want all these big, crazy production elements, yeah, you can spend $1 million. But if you want to just keep it simple, get the story across, you can keep it really scrappy and get it done for a lot less. So that's sort of like the range that you see. Like the range is really whatever you need it to be for the most part, which is what I love about production. Awesome.
Go ahead.
Hello. I may have missed this, if I did, I'm sorry. But are you running different types of content on different platforms? Like, are you finding, like, hey, this one, it was funny, we run on Facebook, but then we run a more serious tone on LinkedIn versus we do a different type of storytelling on YouTube, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually what we've done is we run the same content on the different platforms, but we do add different things in terms of the formatting for different platforms. So say like you have a comedic video, something that I would definitely test out is adding that headline that you see in the typical LinkedIn ad to that video to get people to stop and watch to make it feel more native, but you can still use that same video. I would also just test it against running the video as it is, because I've seen those typical comedic videos perform super well without any additionals on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I know Webflow does a really great job as running those comedic ads. Trainual's been doing an awesome job at it. So it really also just sort of depends on your audience, right? So my best advice there would be to test out different things. I think the main thing is that when you run those product-specific ads, to make sure that that's more of a retargeting effort. That way that person has already heard of your brand and they're more likely to really be interested in the product at that point. Does that answer that question?
Thank you.
Cool. Awesome.
All right.
Cool.
Anybody else? Good? Cool. All right, guys, let's give her a hand.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, thank you.